Here we are, here to talk about the Identify and Disrupt Bill. So this is from the Digital Rights Watch, digitalrightswatch.org.au. Mind you, this was posted in, I think, September. So to be completely honest, I'm not sure how it's gone since then, but I can only assume it has remained the same and not much has changed. That this is still in place because ultimately the only reason I'm posting this sort of stuff is because barely anyone seems to be talking about this kind of thing. I mean, maybe maybe I'm just not in the right circles or following the right people online or whatever. But at least the average Joe doesn't. No one seems to be talking about this, and it needs to be talked about. So here I am. Shout outs to Steve who sent me this a little while ago. He was very concerned about these laws that were passed, and as am I. And to be honest, you absolutely should be as well. Not afraid, but concerned. Because you got to realize there are people who rely on your trust and rely on your ignorance, or on our ignorance and our trust. There are plenty of people that want to pull the wool over your eyes. Trust me on that. So, the Identify and Disrupt Bill was passed by the Australian Parliament in late August, despite receiving 33 recommendations to make significant amendments to narrow the scope of the powers, add stronger oversight, and protect human rights. It passed without meaningful changes. That's right. Parliament ignored calls to protect human rights. Again. You should have probably noticed a trend by now with this kind of thing. Just like 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and just like once we get 80% vaxxed, all that shit. So the new powers coming into play. The three major powers introduced are number one, data disruption warrants. Number two, account takeover warrants, and number three, network activity warrants. And by the way, I'm not just here to give you bad news. At the end of what I'm about to read out, I'm going to give you some tips as well. Some tips that these guys give you, and also some personal tips that I've implemented in my own life. But number three, network activity warrants. I'm not sure if I already said that, but anyway. These powers are deeply invasive, and the threshold to use them is exceptionally low. They solidify Australia's commitment to becoming a surveillance police state. They're not exaggerating. And I've been trying to warn people of this for a little while. Um, I mean, as a bunch of other people have, your David Icke, things like that, but it's a very select few. And but the good thing is about this COVID and all that is it's right in front of our face now. So I no longer seem like that much of a conspiracy theorist, and this as the average Joe, once receiving a little bit of extra information and a little bit of uh, broadening their horizons a little bit, it will become glaringly obvious. But so next, a data disruption warrant enables agencies to add, copy, delete, or alter data on devices. I mean, that's just pure criminal. Like, what the fuck? That's pure criminal. Hang on a minute. You're against the system. Let us put a couple of child prawn images in there. Oh, look at this. You're a criminal. Let's put you in jail. I mean, yeah, these powers are a huge overreach. But this warrant can be issued under an emergency authorization without a judge's approval. So, Digital Rights Watch have labelled this, calling it a warrant is misleading. I agree. An account takeover warrant. So an account takeover warrant enables the Australian Federal Police, the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission, to take control of an account and or lock the holder out of it, covertly and without consent. Yes, a law enforcement officer can take over your account and impersonate you. I mean, I already knew these laws, but reading it back again out loud, like, what? What the fuck? What the fuck? A network activity warrant allows access to entire networks where there is suspicion of serious online offences, and to overcome security features like encryption. They can search in the dark for evidence they are not sure exists. And then I guess based upon the last law, they can just write stuff as if it's you. Oh, I found the evidence. There it is, exactly what we were looking for. The government wants to further undermine encryption. Hear that? Alarm bells. You'll never know if you are subject to these powers, and there is no one there to argue on your behalf. Parliament ignored recommendations for a public interest advocate to participate in decisions about these warrants. Another way of saying that is they don't give a fuck what you've got to say about it. Which is why I'm here talking about this stuff, because it's like we have to unite on these kinds of things, like on topics that affect all of us. And there has to be a large group of people that speak up about it, because when just a handful of people just say, "Oh, we're not a fan of this. Can we please have public interest involved?" Nah, fuck off. It's almost like we have to have a bunch of us knocking at their door, potentially, like legitimately doing that. Don't get got. I agree. Don't get got. Here are some tips. As promised, here are some tips. So these are tips from Digital Rights Watch. If you want to have a private, confidential conversation, have it in person with no devices around. And no, we're not exaggerating. And I'm an advocate for that too. There's some people that I've hung out with that know what I'm like with phones, and it's fucking gross, to be honest with you, the amount of recording. We so many of us just accept it now, like, oh yeah, like it's crazy, hey, the advertise shows up, just what you're talking about, but like that's fucking rank. Like it's not on. And I mean, I'm slightly digressing here, but even the amount of cameras along the streets, like it's just crept up on us. Like it's fucking everywhere. It's gross, man. I hate it. And then as much as possible, tip number 2, as much as possible, disperse your work and online life across devices and accounts so it becomes harder to jump across them. I mean, another way around that is honestly just to delete your social media accounts. That's a pretty easy and big one. I mean, I've got Instagram purely to post about this kind of stuff. But if I wasn't posting for this kind of thing, I definitely would not have Instagram at all. I haven't had Facebook for a good few years. Or maybe a couple of years, whatever. No Snapchat, none of that shit. Because they're all under the same banner, these same creatures that are putting in laws like this, really. Digital security, get it together. Get a password manager, set up 2-factor authentication, and keep an eye out for suspicious activity. Create a culture of digital security in your community. Here I am, the pin-up boy of digital security. And then don't stop there, take action now. Write to your MP to voice your concern about the lack of protections in the bill. Ask for the legislation to be referred to the INSLM for a human rights review. Add your voice to the petition. This bill has a sunset provision. We can defeat it then. Again, I actually don't know where this is at the moment, but you need to take action with this kind of thing, and as do I, which is why I'm posting this kind of video. I don't think any of us are proactive. I say any of us, but I don't think most of us are proactive with any of this stuff. It's like most of the shit that is like of severe importance to us, not many of us are talking about or doing too much about. And support Digital Rights Watch so we can continue to fight for you. There are lots of ways you can help. Become a member, sign up for updates, donate, follow, share the knowledge. So yeah, definitely go and support them. digitalrightswatch.org.au. And if you want to see this particular article, it's Australia's new mass surveillance mandate. And then a couple of extra tips. So one big one would be to simply get a Faraday bag. A Faraday bag, well, effectively it blocks out all electromagnetic fields, I believe. I've got a Faraday bag. I use it. I think I was using it predominantly to reduce my exposure to electromagnetic fields, which I'm like very sensitive to. And then I think a byproduct. I was happy to get the privacy benefits of it as well, because even if your phone's in airplane mode, technically you still are like registered on the grid, um, which is right where they want you. But when you're in a Faraday bag, I believe nothing shows up at all. So you even your location won't show up. Let me get a definition of Faraday bag for you. Um, yeah, so it removes. It's to ensure that mobile phones cannot be connected to remotely, preventing remote hacking, remote wiping of data slash evidence, and remote surveillance. Um, yeah, another definition. Faraday bags can completely block all wireless signals and keeps electronic devices shielded to prevent hacking, tracking, spying, and chain of custody corruption. When a cell phone or tablet is properly enclosed in the bag, no apps or malicious code can be remotely triggered or wiped, no communication can penetrate, and no one can access the microphone, camera, GPS location, or data. Yeah, that's big. Um, I would love, to be honest, I would love to see a society where most of us, if not all of us, have Faraday bags. Like, honestly, it really is at that point too. You got to understand these people. These people are often thinking very far ahead. Um, so it's very easy to manipulate and know what people are up to, and to act accordingly if you know every conversation they're having. Because there's very sophisticated algorithms occurring here too, and algorithms are just agents in disguise. You have to remember that too. But yeah, get a Faraday bag. It's good on multiple levels. Both levels that I mentioned reduce your exposure to electromagnetic fields. Um, Electromagnetic fields also drain your energy too. I think they remove DHA and EPA. So, um, yeah. And then because there's also so much, I mean, on top of the data corruption, the censorship and privacy, blah blah blah, of what I've already mentioned, you've also got um, here's some more tips anyway, which helps also you personally, but mostly just helps out all of us and helps stop giving so much power to these very corporations that do not have any of our best interests in mind, essentially. Because you got Google building the big AI god. Um, so stop using Google. That like please stop using Google. Um, I won't go into the ins and outs of it on this video, but I've done a lot of research on Google, and they're up to some very malicious things, some very sinister things. So an alternative is DuckDuckGo. Um, yeah, they don't collect all the data, they don't use it against you, basically. Um, it's just a much safer search engine. There are other alternatives as well, but and then I believe that the search results aren't uh well, they're not manipulated, because Google can just put whatever it wants to show up at the top so that you click that and believe that. You know what I mean? I think DuckDuckGo is a little bit more organic, um, at least for now, anyway. And then obviously Chrome is an extension of Google as well. So if your browser's Chrome, you got to stop using that as well. Um, Perfect alternative is Brave. It basically runs off of uh, the same functionality. It functions in the exact same way. It's the same operating system, is what I'm trying to say. Um, and once again, it doesn't fuck you over. It's awesome though. I've loved using Brave, and yeah, it's not anti-life. And then I mean, there's another couple of suggestions here that I'm reading. The first few are my own personal recommendations, although I am reading the first two that someone else had also said, but I agree with them. But then they're saying also to get off Instagram and go to Telegram, which I agree with. My Telegram is in the link below, by the way, so join me there. And then instead of YouTube, go to Odyssey or BitChute. And then instead of Facebook, Telegram as well, because Facebook, Instagram, Google, Chrome, they're all the same thing. They're all the same thing. So yeah, there's some recommendations for you to pick up your act on them. Oh, one more thing. One more thing. This one's very important too. So you need to create a new email account The best one that I've found is Proton Mail. Proton Mail. So it has the two-factor authentication and all that other fancy shit that I spoke about earlier. Because you got to understand too, even if you have a Gmail account, or even if you send to a Gmail account, that gives Google all access to your emails too, and they can use it against you. So Proton Mail as an email is another great option for you. I'm sure there are others as well. You can do a bit of research yourself, but I think Proton Mail is up there with the highest possible quality. I don't think you even need to pay for it. It may be a small fee, but it's worth it in the end. And then yeah, I think that's about it. But yeah, those laws are deeply concerning. Um, and yeah, those are a few tips, but we definitely need to be mindful of this stuff. But uh, yeah, share this around, share this information around. You need to be mindful of this sort of thing. And yeah, if anyone knows where this is at the minute or any updates, let me know. And I'll do my best to let you know as well. I'll keep an eye on what's going on in terms of the digital rights watch. You know what? Let's leave it at that for now. Peace. That was a lot of information.